if I was to give advice to somebody, it would just be, have an idea of where you want to go and what school you want to be, go and talk to people and then try adjuncting first.
And I understand that, do what's best for you, and there might be some things happening now, but recognize that even when life is crazy or a pandemic happens, there are ways to accomplish your goals because the time passes anyway. Hygiene school is not easy. It's not easy. And as educators, it is our responsibility to help cultivate and create a community for students to learn, grow, and achieve their goals without feeling like a piece of dirt.
Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Welcome to Hygiene Edge, educators, a podcast just for dental hygiene educators brought to you by Jessica Atkinson, that's me, Shelley Brown, and Melia Lewis of Hygiene Edge.
We have partnered with A Tale of Two Hygienists to bring you helpful information about being a dental educator. Thanks for chatting education with us. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Hygiene Edge and subscribe to our YouTube for the latest videos full of tips and tricks for your career.
Each episode, we will share information from dental hygiene educators to help you grow in your didactic and clinical instruction. Volume up and write it down. Let's get Hygiene Edge educated.
Before we get to the interview, we want to say a big thank you to Paradise Dental Technologies, or PDT, for supporting the continuing education portion of this podcast for so many years. If you do not know already, many of our full-length episodes count for CE. You'll find the links in the show notes, or you can sign up for our newsletter by going to ataleoftwohygienists.com. When you sign up for the newsletter, we will periodically send out links to shows that have expiring CE courses attached. And none of this could be possible without the support of the amazing people over at PDT. So check out their hygiene and other instruments at pdtdental.com. That's pdtdental.com. Now, on to the interview.
Welcome back to Dental Hygiene Educators, and we are happy to have you today with us as we are going to be talking about how to get into dental hygiene education or dental education in general. Melia, Shelley, and I are happy to introduce to you the Mighty M's. I've just dubbed them that tonight. And we have Mandy Gibbs, Megen Elliott, and Melissa Calhoun with us, and we are excited to talk about what to do if you want to become a dental hygiene educator. We're going to start off with some introductions, and we're going to have Mandy introduce herself to all of you.
Hi, Mandy Gibbs, and I've been a dental hygienist for 13 years, but I've only been teaching dental hygiene regularly as of this fall, just in adjunct in junior clinic. So I just started, but I have done subbing adjunct throughout the years, just here and there.
Awesome. We are so happy to have you, Mandy. Thank you. And Megen.
Hi, guys. I'm Megan Elliott, and I am a dental assisting educator right now. I previously dental hygiene educator. I am in Wisconsin, USA, and I teach at Northwood Technical College since 2011, on and off.
Awesome. Thank you, Megen. And Melissa.
I've been a dental hygienist for 16 years, and a silver lining of COVID is that I started working as an educator at Fortis College in Landover, Maryland. I started in freshman clinic and have, taught freshman, junior, senior clinic, and a plethora of different classes over the last year. So that's about it.
That is a silver lining from COVID.
I
know from people who work with you that you have been a great asset to Fortis College. So we are so grateful that you decided to be on our podcast tonight. And we're excited to talk with all of you on how we all became dental hygiene educators and what the steps are, if there are any, to become a dental hygiene educator. So my story is I started as an interested student. When I decided to become a dental hygienist, I had a choice between dental hygiene and education. I either wanted to be a dental hygienist or I wanted to be a teacher. And gratefully, I chose a profession where I could be both. And when I was in hygiene school, I was so fascinated and just inspired by my own dental hygiene educators that I stuck around a little like a leech. Shelley can definitely attest to the fact that I did. I stuck around and I asked a lot. Every time I was by my college, I would just drop in and say hello and say, I'm interested. So I definitely was not shy about wanting to get into dental hygiene education. And I started as a sub. So I subbed in clinic after I graduated, and that sub position turned into a part-time position as a clinical instructor. And that part-time position as a clinical instructor then turned into a part-time adjunct. And then that part-time adjunct plus education turned into full-time faculty. So I know that my story is similar to both Shelley and Melia's, and I would like to know a little bit from both of them what they did to get into education. And then each of you share about how this education thing happened for you. Shelley, tell us a little bit about how you got into education.
So I too knew I wanted to be an educator as a student, and so I just started networking with the dental hygiene programs where I worked at, which is where I went to school, and said, if you ever need like a radiology teacher or, any type of subs, I would love to be on the list. And she ended up, the director called me a year later and said, we would love to have you come and be an educator at our facility. And I said, no. I can't be like in the clinic. I've only been a hygienist for 1 year. And I told them no. And then I said, that was so silly. So then I called them back and they actually had something that was part-time, which worked out really great because I still feel like I needed a lot of clinical experience under my belt before I could become a full-time educator. I really wanted that aspect. So it was really great to have a little bit of be an educator part-time and also be in the, in the clinical world a little more than part-time, a few more days a week, I should say. So that's how I trickled into education, just networking. And when you see an opening come up, you say something and you throw your hat in the ring and say, hey, I might be available for that if you're looking for someone. So networking is mine. Go ahead, Melia.
I started in education because I was working in Canada, and then I moved back to the States, and I went back to school because I wanted to be a dentist. And so I came back to America, was doing a bunch of classes, and I was temping. Like I had classes, all my classes were on 3 days, and I was temping 2 days a week, which was really fun. You see all the offices, you get to know a zillion people when you temp. But then one of my old educators, he reached out to me and said, we have an opening coming up soon. Would you want to apply? And I said, yes, because this is perfect because I live my life in semesters right now in school, and they live their lives in semesters too. And the schedule always changes, and stuff. So it's like, this is perfect for me in my life right now as I'm going back to school. Well, anyway, all these years later, I didn't go to dental school, obviously. I ended up getting into education, loving it, and pursuing that. So then I furthered my education in education other than going to dental school. So
we're happy that you're in dental hygiene education, Melia. Mandy, as Melia was one of your educators, tell us a little bit about how you got into education.
Well, as I was finishing up dental hygiene school, I just loved our faculty that we had. They were great and they got along really well and they made the job look really fun. And so I love teaching anyways. That's part of my favorite part about being a dental hygienist is educating my patients. And I thought, God, I could do this all day long. And so as I kind of was finishing up the dental hygiene program, I realized that teaching was my end goal. But like Shelley, I wanted a little bit more experience under my belt. And so I went out into private practice and did that for 13 years. The hardest part for me was when I graduated with my associates, because that's all Dixie was an associate's program. And so I asked the faculty, I says, what do I need to do to become a hygienist? And they says, well, all you need is your bachelor's. So I says, great. In 10 years or so, I'll go back, get my bachelor's, no big deal. Well, then in the meantime, Dixie turns into a university and you need 1 degree higher than you teach. So I hit 13 years in my career as a hygienist and said, okay, if I'm going to make this happen, it's going to be now. And so I started and I went back and got my bachelor's in a year. Thank you, Melia. That was awesome. And then now I'm into the master's program. I'm 3 semesters in. So I'm still working on it. But I think if I was to give it's brutal. And I will be one of 4 to have only graduated in this program within 2 years. So I'm busting it out really fast. But it's crazy. But if I was to give advice to somebody, it would just be, have an idea of where you want to go and what school you want to be, go and talk to people and then try adjuncting first. I think that I applied there just so I could get my foot in the door. I even dropped one of my dental office private practices just so I could adjunct, because I wanted to get my foot in the door so that by the time I graduate, they know me, I know them, I know how the program's kind of running, and hopefully I can be full-time faculty by the time I'm done.
Well, keep it up. Getting a master's is no joke. But I will say, I felt like getting a master's was a little easier than getting my dental hygiene degree. Does anyone else agree?
I don't know about that.
I remember hygiene school being pretty brutal, and getting a master's for me felt a little more doable than getting my hygiene degree. So all of you who are listening to this going, I don't know if I can get another degree. I don't know if I can do it. And I know Mandy's on an accelerated track, so keep that in mind. But I really felt that hygiene school was harder on me than my master's degree was. And I do see some head nods as I look across our panel here.
I would agree. Getting my bachelor's was a lot easier. I think a big part is when you're in dental hygiene school, often you're a lot younger. So I noticed that as I have wised up and gotten more wisdom in my years, I'm a lot more organized and motivated driven than I was when I was 19 going through the program. So
that's fair. So all of you who are listening to this going, another degree? I'll need to get another degree. Just think, you've already been through dental hygiene school. You can totally get another degree. And Melissa has just finished. Yay, Melissa! Tell us a little bit about your path in coming into dental hygiene education.
Well, I mean, I could say that I knew I wanted to go into dental hygiene education the minute I stepped out of school. I would like to say it was because of the fact that my teachers were all so pleasant and warm and fuzzy, but that was not the case. I wanted to make it that way. I wanted to make it a little more enjoyable. And I think I do that. But so I received my associate's degree, and then I went straight in and got my bachelor's degree right after through a degree completion program. And then it took 12 years before I decided to go back and get my master's. And it was because I've kind of felt like I didn't know what else I was going to do. And so I was like, I want to be a teacher, and I know that. And I'm a military spouse, and like we moved to so many different places that have so many different types of universities and colleges that I didn't really know what kind of opportunities I was going to have. And so I went to MCPHS University in Boston and just finished my master's degree in September 1st. I officially graduated. I'm still pending my publication of my thesis, but that's going to happen.
Awesome.
But I've just, teaching has been great. I really do love it. If you ever really think that that's something that you want to do, that's the reason I went back and got my bachelor's, is because I knew I could teach in an associate's program. But I'm really glad that I have my master's now, because, there are so many. I think that's where the career is going, that we go more bachelor's degree, that 4-year. I think it's well deserved. We bust our butt in those 2 years for an associate's degree. So, I just wanted to be prepared for that, and whatever other large things the dental hygiene career field could have for me. So.
And what I love about our profession is it's so much more nuanced than I thought it was when I entered the profession, meaning there were many more opportunities than I thought there were when I decided I wanted to become a dental hygienist. And there are many other opportunities as an educator than just, and I don't want to use the word just, because I think it downplays the work that we do. One of my favorite quotes ever is Melia. She says, "There's only one thing harder than being a dental hygiene student, and that's being a dental hygiene educator." And I believe it. So I don't want to say just, when you do have other options than working in a dental hygiene program. And one of those options is teaching in a dental school. And another option is teaching in a dental assisting program. And that's where Megen is. Megen, tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Yes, it's similar and different from what everyone has shared. So for me, parts of your stories very much resonate. So for me, I graduated from a associate's degree program as well. I did have fantastic instructors, one of which was our club advisor, SADA advisor, who really pushed us outside of our comfort zone and exposed us to so many opportunities beyond the classroom. And I think for me, that's where I started to see that if I wanted to do something different than I originally planned on doing my whole life, which was working for a dental office and very shallow things, not working nights and weekends, not doing a lot of math. Like, I got into the profession for reasons that are not at all the reasons today. But I
also got in not wanting to do math.
I know, isn't that funny? Yeah. And then we do math. Oh, amazing. But anyway.
We do math.
Yeah, we do. And I also didn't want to go to school for a super duper long time. And here I am going to school forever. But I ended up graduating from that associate's degree program, being exposed to all of these hygienists doing really awesome things. And a lot of it was through my exposure that I had to them. We went to the ADHA annual session while I was a student in DC, and I got to see all the leaders up there on stage and all the things that they had done. And I thought, how do I get to do those kinds of things? Or how do I obtain those opportunities? And during my time in school, I figured out, well, if I want to do a lot of those things, they are going to probably require some advanced education or beyond my associate's degree. And so I did, like Melissa, go right into a degree completion program upon graduation. Graduated on Friday, started that on Monday. So rolled right into that process and kind of fast forward tracked that as well, like you guys were talking about. Kind of got through that rather quickly and didn't really know where I was going to land. At the time, I was part-time everywhere. It felt like I was in a private practice. I was running a school-based sealant program, public health program. I was working in education, teaching at actually a few different schools, both dental assisting and dental hygiene at the time. And I was like, where am I going to land? And so when I got my bachelor's degree, I went for dental hygiene, got it in dental hygiene, but I didn't know where I wanted to get my master's degree because of that wide variety of things that I could do. So I ended up getting my master's degree in organizational change leadership while I was teaching, and just knowing that I didn't know where I'd land. But I've been teaching dental assisting in the program pretty consistently for about 11 or 10 years now, and really have been loving teaching in a CODA accredited dental assisting program, because I do get to instill knowledge that I gained through dental assisting school and working as a dental assistant and dental hygienist. But also we go in a little bit deeper than the assisting program that I went through, which was one semester. I get to talk about prevention and talk about oral systemic things and all of that kind of stuff with my dental assisting students. And I just get all excited and fired up about it. So I know they judge me sometimes, but that's okay. So I really
or
do.
they're getting inspired by you.
Or that,
That's
I don't
what's
know.
happening.
It's more like funny looks and stuff I get from them. But I really do enjoy teaching dental assisting as well, because it really is exposure for them and for me to stay connected to the clinical world and visit dental practices and get to visit with them on their site rotations and that kind of stuff. So there are so many wonderful things that I've gained through that experience, and I hope to be the instructor that I had and really that instilled that passion in me for my students too. So it's really my goal.
I'm sure those are the best trained dental assistants. They are probably the best trained dental assistants out there. To be trained by a hygienist,
Agreed.
They're a level up, that's for sure.
Yeah, I teach with another dental assistant. Dental assistant and I are the two lead instructors, and we complement each other super well because she was a clinical assistant for her entire career, and I worked clinically for part of my career, but have been teaching for actually now the majority of it. And I feel like we both bring different things to the table, and it's been really valuable for our students.
I think that is valuable, is to have an IPE perspective, meaning an interprofessional education perspective, and giving that different role, how we work together with each other, and how we really, when we work cohesively, the best outcome is possible. And that's what I love about our opportunity as dental hygienists, is we have an opportunity to educate in a variety of circumstances, whether that be in an office with our patients or in formal education. We can be in an assisting program, a dental hygiene program, or a dental program. We really have a lot to offer. We have a knowledge base that is integral to the success of an office. So I love that this has been something that you have had come into your life, Megan, that you've been able to grow this program, and you have you have some accolades here. I don't know of many CODA accredited programs, and imagine those students going out and really valuing their position in an office and what they can do and offer is amazing. And I want to talk a little bit about how we can be better at showcasing what a hygienist can do in education through advanced degrees. So for me, as Mandy said earlier, you have to have a degree higher than what you teach. And I had the opportunity, I was a delegate for my state association, and we would do delegate visits, and we'd go to different colleges and universities and present to the students about the association and advocacy. And I was presenting at a college in Utah Valley University, and the program director was in the class. And after my presentation, she came up to me and said, "Are you looking into getting a full-time faculty position as an educator?" And I was like, yeah, I would love that. And I'm currently working on my master's degree. And as Shelley talked about networking, that importance of networking and really being in positions where you're having an opportunity to talk to people who get to know what you want to do and can see where you are in your path to becoming an educator is really helpful. But I knew that I wasn't able to be available for certain positions because I hadn't yet gotten my master's degree. What I want to talk about here is the different ways we can get our education. Mandy talked about an accelerated program. I did an all-online program. When we talk about what the age of the pandemic has done for education, I think for those of you who are listening, it really has opened up avenues for you to have an advanced degree while still having a day-to-day life and job. I couldn't quit my job. I was not in a position I could go into a classroom like I traditionally went to school as a dental hygienist to get my advanced degree. So I want to know about what you guys thought about your own programs and how that worked with your schedule, and really give those who are listening maybe a direction on what to do next if they would like to get an advanced degree.
So I got my I got my degree in education, and I seriously used that to my benefit. I don't know if you guys did, Jessica and Shelley, when we got ours in education, but I wrote all my papers about dentistry, and I don't know if the graders, knew, which was kind of nice. I mean, obviously we had to do like the same principles of teaching, but it was super nice to be in an education field with other professionals that weren't in dentistry. It was nice to talk to them about things that was completely off dentistry, but then I could apply what I was learning to dentistry. So that I felt like was really beneficial for me personally. It's just getting outside of my dentistry bubble. That's all I had known for my whole life, and talk to other people. So
mine was, so my bachelor's degree program through St. Petersburg College, that was where I did my degree completion. And it kind of sets you up the way that it was. I mean, I don't know if it's still the same way, but you took like an education course, like a basic teaching course. And then some of their courses were like advanced perio. And then other classes were on research. So basically you had a good background knowledge from your bachelor's degree on how to take your dental hygiene to the next step, right? And so when I decided to go back, I did go, and everything is in dental hygiene. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but I do have to say that going through with my master's degree through MCPHS, they had two avenues. The one avenue was public health, and the other avenue was education. So my final year of my 2-year master's degree program was all education based while writing my thesis. So it was all on adult learning, and I found that those were, like you said, Jessica, they were things that I was already doing. I was already trying to promote change in my patients, and now I was learning how to change one's behaviors in a different way with learning and education. So it just different avenue. And MCPHS does a associates to master's degree program, which is a 3-year program. But I think that's pretty cool that it does that. It can catapult you to that master's sooner in some aspects.
Yeah, that fast track like Mandy is on.
Yeah.
Mandy, what is your master's in specifically?
It will be in dental hygiene, and I debated the same thing. I'm like, you don't have to get a master's in dental hygiene to teach it, but I was talking to Brenda Armstrong, and I talked to a few other hygienists and said, what should I do, and what are the benefits of either? And the, I guess, disadvantage of dental hygiene degree is it's very limited. And that was the only thing they said was, you probably want to get it in dental hygiene because that's the direction you're heading, but I hope you don't want to teach anything else. And I thought, there's nothing else I really want to teach. Dental hygiene is my life, and I love it. I have no interest in going anywhere else in another field. So for me, it really wasn't that difficult of a question. I wanted my degree in dental hygiene. And I thought, someday you look at the nurse's occupation, and a lot of nurses have to go back and get another degree to keep their license and their positions. And I think one day that might be standard where the instructors have to have a degree in dental hygiene. And I thought, if I already have it in dental hygiene, I don't think there's anything they're going to come back and say that I need more. And so I was trying to think ahead that way. But another thing I wanted to add was mine was all online as well. And for those of you that are thinking of doing a degree, the beauty of online and the way that they have their courses now, you can take one at a time. I'm a mother of 3 young kids, and I work in private practice, and I'm adjuncting at the college, and I'm going on my master's full time. So if I can do it, you guys can do it too. And whether you do it full time and accelerated, or you do it just one class at a time, it doesn't matter. And one of my instructors had just finished her master's, and she says, well, it took me 7 years, but I did it. And if that's what it takes, and you just do it one course at a time, then so be it. But it's a great way to end your career, and, not end it, but open up new doors, later on. So
yeah, Megan, I agree. Ours was the same way. It was everything I've done is online, bachelor's and master's. And I like to say that I did it with through a pandemic with my 2 children. So you did it. You're doing it too. So
I think the best advice I got was the time will pass anyway. The time will pass anyway. If I could give anyone any advice, is start now.
Yeah.
There's never a good time. There's never a really good time. I hear myself saying that, and understanding that I also am contemplating another degree and wondering if this is the right time. And I understand that, do what's best for you, and there might be some things happening now, but recognize that even when life is crazy or a pandemic happens, there are ways to accomplish your goals because the time passes anyway. And I chose a degree in education to obviously teach dental hygiene as an educator, but also because I have a passion for instructional design, and I found so many applications for that in my job, in my profession as an educator, but also in a number of other ways. And so what I'm wondering, Megan, is how has your master's in organizational everything really benefited you as an instructor?
Yeah, for me, my master's degree was kind of an afterthought. I was already teaching full time at the time and kind of landed into my role. And teaching in an assisting program, like it's been mentioned, you need 1 degree higher than where you're teaching. So for me, a master's degree isn't necessarily required, but I knew that I might not be at this place forever. I might end up at a different program. Where do I want to be? And so I am also someone who likes to plan my life 10 years in advance. If I have any control over it, which obviously we know we don't always have that. Thanks 2020. But I think one thing for me is I wanted to go earn my master's degree in something I was super passionate about. And for me, I really like diving into organizations and learning about how things work. But then also I love the dynamic of leadership and leading a team and doing those kinds of things. And I do feel like as an instructor, you are a facilitator of learning, and you're helping students, plan things out, see where they want to go, achieve goals, do all of those things. And so I've been able to bring in some of the things that I've learned from that degree into the classroom. But starting with my education, I went through assisting school, right? And then I went right into hygiene school, and I went right into my bachelor's of hygiene. And it was so dental for so long that I was really trying to figure out which direction I wanted to go. And obviously so passionate about dentistry and wanting to keep those dental roots, but then also saying, if I do land in public health, if I do land in higher ed, if I do land in corporate dentistry or in the corporate world, which degree is going to serve me the best? And for me, after looking at public health, after looking at education, dental hygiene, I landed with this because I did feel like it was more broad, and it did serve many different roles, both in education, which is my current role, but had the potential to serve me in other ways as well. So I will echo you. to say, there is really no great time for me. My degrees were online after dental hygiene school. So both of my advanced degrees were online. And I would say my bachelor's degree right after hygiene school was the most challenging. I was young. I was 20 when I graduated from hygiene school, turned 21, moved out on my own for the first time, was working full time for the first time, navigating adulting for the first time, and doing that and coming home and working on schoolwork then until 11:59 due dates and getting everything done. I think that was probably the most trying time for me. And so then after that, I just kind of shut down and really wanted to focus on working and figuring out my master's degree. And I kind of kicked myself for a little while because it took me a few years to actually start that process and go back. And I had wished I was ready to go right into it. But at the same time, I was like, I need a break. So I did end up going... Fair. Kind of finding my path and keeping it broad and landed with that. And I was super happy when I was going through that program because it was something I was really passionate about. So it really was easier because I was very much wanted to be there at that point when I was there and wanted to be learning about what I was learning about.
I think that's really important to evaluate what you're interested in and what you want to be learning about, and understanding that teaching in a dental hygiene program, you can have a number of different advanced degrees, and each are going to have a nuance that will be beneficial for you and your position. One of my program directors had her master's in business. There are a number of different things that can be applied to dental hygiene with these different focuses. So definitely, I mean, you say that it took you a few years to get back. It took me a few years, and it also took me a whole bunch of buddies to do it with me. So I recruited people. I would like to do things with people, and that was really helpful. It's always nice to have somebody to talk to and bounce ideas off of. And so if any of you are listening, wondering what to do or how to get there, or have any questions, please know that you can reach out to any of us on this podcast, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions, because we are in need of dental hygiene educators. When I did my master's degree, I did my capstone on dental hygiene education, and the research I was doing was saying within 5 years, most of the dental hygiene educators would be retiring or at retiring age. And so I want you to just think about that. If you're thinking about education, know that within the next... that was how many years ago now that I've had my master's degree. Within the next 2 years, there are going to be a lot of jobs available in dental hygiene education. And I saw Melissa nodding her head, and many of you saying there are so many opportunities for you as a dental hygiene educator. I know, looking for subs, looking for people who have been in the education realm to be able to give our students the best, is getting to a point that we need to be asking our friends what they want to do with their lives and see if there are any people out there that want to do education. Hello, where are you? So when that time comes, how do you set yourself apart? So I want to talk to Shelley. Shelley is very good at CVs. She's very good at resumes, very good at everything that has to do with actually getting the job. Once you have gotten the education, well, first of all, you've decided that, hey, maybe this is something I want to do, and you recognize that there might be some education that you need to get before you jump in. Or you recognize that maybe there's a position that you want that won't necessitate even more education if you want to be a clinical instructor, 1 degree higher, or just look at what is available for you. And once you've finally gotten to the point that you're like, okay, my foot is in a door, I'm ready, I've got my ducks in a semi-row, it's more like herding cats, but they're there, we're getting there. Now I'm applying. So Shelley, how do we stand out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jess. So I would recommend, of course, you need a resume, or probably a little more detailed, a curriculum, a CV is what Jessica's talking about. It just gives a little more detail of, what you've been doing out in private practice. You can talk a little bit more about any application that you have in private practice to education. So maybe you were in charge of something at your work, in private practice, maybe you were over, these staff meetings or trainings or anything, you should put those on your CV/resume to let them know you have a little bit of experience in leading groups and things like that. Also, I would recommend to possibly take some methodology courses. So every instructor, every educator, I guess you could say, needs to have what are called methodology courses, and that's just how to teach. And so even if you're not a teacher, you could definitely find some of those resources. They're like CEs, right? Have many of you been to those as educators here on this group? You can take some of those classes. Some of them, they're offered for free, and be able to put some of those on your CV. I would also recommend today to start documenting your CEs. We've had several educators who apply for the position, and they list every CE that they have ever taken. I know that sounds crazy, but like they have a long list of all the CEs that they've ever taken. They record those. You need those for accreditation anyways. So I have mine all listed since I have been a graduate, and they're all just on one document.
Gratefully, CODA has now changed the word to the word recent. So you don't have to go 28 years back, but
Right.
you do have to have a documentation of your continuing education courses, specifically in regards to the courses you teach. So if you would like to be a clinical educator, take clinical courses.
Take
If
them
you
on
would like to teach,
instrumentation.
yeah, instrumentation. If you are AAP classifications, application, things like that. If you'd like to teach head and neck anatomy, like Melissa, take things that have to do with head and neck anatomy, which is a hard one to find.
Super hard. So
But
difficult.
But gratefully, our educator buddies have gathered together and have recognized that there is a need and have been meeting that need with things like Gel Ed and Educators Platform and a number of others, ADHA, things like that. So yeah, your CEs, record them and make sure they're applicable.
I think you cannot underestimate the power of networking, especially when it comes in education. A lot of times it's, if you've connected with someone, it's just like the right time, the right place. And they're just like, hey, we're looking for someone. Do you want to apply? Sometimes that overrides
Experience,
even your resume, I personally feel like. So I think if you are interested in education, even in the next 10 years, let's say 15 years, 20 years, it's even just like a thought in your mind, I would join the ADHA. There's so many educators in the ADHA. I think because educators definitely see the value of it in the profession and the need for a group getting together. So if you are ever interested, even a little bit, join your ADHA group or your local component and get to know everyone. Meet everyone in your component. That makes a big difference just to kind of get your name out there. And it also makes your clinical practice a little more fun when you get to have some hygiene friends that you can bounce ideas off of.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, it was at a component meeting that I saw my old educator, Sandy Pierce, and I came up to her as a squeaky wheel, and she said, actually, we have a position for a sub. And I went, oh. And I will also tell you, it was as I was presenting for a delegate and about advocacy for my state is when I was approached and given another job. That has been a huge thing for my own personal education journey, was definitely my involvement in the ADHA. Really good point. My dad taught me two really great things. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it's not what you know, it's who you know. And those two things have been really beneficial for me. And that's not devaluing what you know. Mm-hmm. It's allowing the people that you do know what you have to offer. And when you have people in your circles know what you have to offer, then that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, I think another thing is that you really have to tell people that that's what you want. Or that's what you're thinking.
Yes.
I think so often people keep it to themselves and they think like, I might want to be an educator someday. And then they tell no one. I think you need to shout that from the rooftops. Like, Tell one of us on this podcast. Tell somebody. Tell your ADHA leader friends. Tell your past instructors. Tell your classmates. Tell everyone that might be something you're interested in, because they will give you advice that you didn't necessarily know that you needed. They will keep your name and the thought of you in the back of their mind if things do come up. I know that for me, I didn't necessarily know that I would land in education. I was scared of public speaking. I like who is someone who is scared to stand in front of a group of people and talk during hygiene school thinks that they're going to be an educator. Not me, but I knew that that could be somewhere where I landed. And so when I obtained my first position, which was in the program I'm in now, but part-time, very part-time, they were looking for someone to teach like one class, one lab, and one of my past instructors was going to be the new program director, and my current or my more recent past instructors, my dental hygiene instructors, said, hey, do you know that they're opening this program and they're going to be looking for people to adjunct and teach a course? And I didn't know, and if they didn't know that I was interested in education, they wouldn't have let me know. So I definitely would say share your ambitions with others.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Mandy is a really good example of that. You are. She just gave me a face like, what? You are. So I met Mandy as she was taking a tour through our program. She came by my office. She was introduced to me. She told me what she was doing, where she was going, and what she wanted. And I was like, yes, that is what we need. We need educators who are ready to go out and make a difference. We need people who want to be in education. We want people to really catch that bug, right? It's not a disease, but it definitely is something that once you catch that vision, it's hard to shake. Now, education's not a break, or it's not a vacation from private practice. It's just not an out of private practice. It might be better on your back if you're just teaching didactic, because I will tell you, being a clinical instructor is not good on your ergonomics. It is very hard to watch somebody give a PSA in the right standing in a good position for your own body. So if you're just looking for a break or an out, that's not an education. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. I hear that a ton, that people are like, I'm tired of private practice. What do I do now? My next step is education, and that's it. And I think if you are going into education that way, you will not be satisfied. You'll probably hate it, actually, because it is a lot similar than clinical practice, especially if you're an adjunct in clinic. And it's really hard on your body still, and it's hard on your mind because you're managing a student and a patient now instead of just a patient. And there's lots of things going on all at once. So I think having a passion for dentistry is very, very important to be an educator instead of wanting out of dentistry.
Because if you want out of dentistry and you're an educator teaching others to be passionate about dentistry, that's probably not the best mindset to be in either. So yes, passion for dentistry I think is super important.
We're looking for people who are ready to be creative and ready to work together and be compassionate teachers. I love when Melissa said, I wish I could tell you that my experience in dental hygiene school was the thing that inspired me to become a dental hygienist. But in fact, it was an inspiration and a way to make hygiene school different. Hygiene school is not easy. It's not easy. And as educators, it is our responsibility to help cultivate and create a community for students to learn, grow, and achieve their goals without feeling like a piece of dirt. So I mean, I think that through getting other degrees has helped me even find different ways to approach dental hygiene education that maybe wasn't the way that it was approached for me as a student. I'd love to hear what are some takeaways that you've gotten as an educator that you are glad to see now in dental hygiene education?
I think it's just really great to take a step back and I mean, we're a learning based profession, right? We're always learning. We're science research based. So sometimes taking a step back, if we ever think as an instructor, well, this is how I did it, or this is how I learned in school, that's probably not a great method to follow, because the world is so different in this last 18 months, let alone the last time you went to hygiene school. And we have to teach completely different nowadays to everyone. So just having an open mind, kind of meeting your students where they're at. That's another thing I think is really important with an educator, is maybe back in the day, they weren't so like empathetic with their students, but now we have to be more human with our students because there's a lot going on in the world. And as a student, I would probably appreciate that too. So I think just we have to kind of switch everything we do in dental hygiene school. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's been good for our education and good for our students and good for our schools to mix it up a little bit.
I definitely think along those lines for me is my availability as an instructor. I mean, I never knew my instructors' phone numbers. I never knew anything about them besides what color of scrubs they showed up in the day they came to work, in the sense of I didn't know much about them. And now in the position that I am in, my syllabus has my phone number on it, has my office hours, has my office number on it, and it has my email. It has so many ways for a student to get a hold of me. And then through our LMS systems, they can send me a video, they can send me all kinds of ways to get a hold of me. And that's been one of my favorite things as an educator, and something that I think would have been beneficial for me as a student.
I agree with that. One of the things that I loved about my professor at MCPHS was that she was so good about getting back to me in a timely manner. And that meant so much to me, because when I'm in the middle of doing something and I panic and needed to email her, it was like she was just sitting there waiting for my email, which is, she's probably like, great, another email from Melissa. But I've tried to be like that for my students, because that's something I appreciated from her. So I really wanted to make sure that I give the things that I appreciate to my students. And you're right, it is different, Melia. When I was in school, you didn't know anything about your professor. I mean, I don't have any problem with my students knowing that I'm a mom and I have 2 kids and I'm a military spouse, and it's okay that they know those things. I feel like it makes them know that I'm human. And if I don't answer on Saturday, it's because of the fact that I'm probably with my family.
Yeah. Or you're human and you might get something wrong, or forget to publish something, or like
open the submit button.
Yes, that's the submit buttons,
the discussion
right?
board's
or
closed.
Have the
yes,
or have the wrong link, or have to, heaven forbid, go and look something up. Like that is something that I really want to drill for my students, is that we are an ever growing learning profession. That means that I can learn, I can grow, and I can have a different approach to something tomorrow than I did yesterday. And I know as a student that can be really frustrating, or it can be really inspiring. So they're balancing that for sure.
Right. Well, it's like when you're like, I don't know the answer to that. Can I email you later? And it's like they, I've been told, don't say that. And I'm like, but I don't know it. So why would I not say that?
Or I tell them in the middle of class, let's Google that. What does the
I've done that
say?
See what the Google tells me.
Yeah. I say, get out your magic wand. My favorite is anything Harry Potter. I mean, anyway, it's my generation. So Professor Umbridge, the worst of the worst, she would just tell them to put their wands away. And I tell them their wand is like their computer or their phone. And I'm not going to tell them to put it away or not have it, but I'm going to ask them to use it to benefit the class. So if you're like watching a TikTok about makeup application, not helpful. But if you're watching a TikTok about Shelley showing you something new on instrumentation, then yes, okay, share it with everybody.
I share y'all's videos with my students all the time.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. We appreciate that. Thank you.
I remember when you guys think back of the time when you were in dental hygiene school, I feel like I always had these nightmares of, okay, but when I'm testing on this, are you going to be watching my ergonomics? Are you going to be watching my positioning? What are you going to dock me for? And I remember that being the concern. And it wasn't that you guys were the bad guys, but the instructors were kind of the bad guys. They were going to dock you for something, you know? And I feel like when I started the bachelor program, it was completely the opposite. Talk about get to know your instructors. And I felt like, Melia, you were awesome. You had my back on everything. It was like I called her. We talked on the phone. We emailed each other. We text, whatever it was. But I felt like, wow, she wants me to pass. She wasn't looking for things to dock me on.
Yes.
She wanted me to pass. You know what I mean? And I know that is how clinic is, because now that I'm in a clinic adjunct, I want them to pass, and I'm just trying to teach them how to think their way through things. But I feel like I am docking them for this and this and this and this, and I'm looking for things to dock. Whereas I feel like, so don't be intimidated about going back to school. It is not like that. You're not getting docked for these things. They are wanting you to succeed. It was very neat, and very neat feeling entering the bachelor program. And I have found that the master program is just as supportive. And so, yeah, don't be afraid to make that jump, because it's not quite the same as your dental hygiene program.
And don't be afraid to make that jump, and don't be afraid to come back and be that kind of instructor.
I have to say,
Shelley has a really great, tipisode about how to help a student feel triumphant even though they failed something. And take a listen. It's only 5 minutes of your time. And what it really hinges on is the type of words that we use and where we have those conversations. So instead of me giving points or taking points, it's you earned this. You did this really well. And here are some areas that we can help you with. And that conversation with the student is really important. And so as we have experienced a different type of education through our upper division courses and our higher education degrees, we are now equipped to take that back and make a difference in dental hygiene education. And that education never ends. I'm learning every single day. I love our dear friend Amanda Hill told me something that she took from Brene Brown. And it was always learning, never knowing. And that is really where we're at, is we're learning and we're teaching and we're learning and we're teaching. The chicken or the egg, it's all there, and we're just doing the best we can as we get better at what we do. So a few things I'd like you guys to consider as you listen to this podcast and you're wondering whether or not education is for you. Number one, there are many openings and opportunities for good educators. We need those who are curious, creative, and ready to apply for a job. So get ready to apply for a job and get a higher degree. Whatever degree strikes your fancy or fills you with joy, get that degree. And time will pass anyway. So start now. And we're here to support you. And once you have that degree, remember that your CV matters, and beef that CV up, that resume up with content that really showcases who you want to be and what you want to be. And remember that content is only helpful if the right people know what you have to offer and what you want to do. So remember, it's who you know, showing them what you know to get that job that's already there just waiting for you to have an impact on the future of dental hygiene. So as we wrap up this podcast, I'm going to have each one of the members of our conversation today share their takeaway of what they would share with you, their advice, or whatever they want you to know as we close today. To all of you potential dental hygiene educators, my words to you are, you can do it and you're needed. Melissa, how about you?
Oh, I could second that one. You are definitely needed. We are at a shortage and we need you so badly. Even if education is not where you want to go, continue your education. That has always been my thing. I think that's really, really important.
Awesome. Megan.
Yeah, for me, I would say I was hoping we would get one more chance to speak because I wanted to add one more thing.
Oh, of course.
Yes, perfect. So for me, I want to point out that, and I won't speak for anyone else on this podcast or any other educators, but just know that not all educators were straight A students with a 4.0 through your hygiene education. So I just want to know you to all know that we are not this perfect unicorn of a population. We also struggled with certain subjects, certain courses, certain parts of the curriculum. And so if you're like, well, I barely passed hygiene school. Well, I'm not saying I didn't barely pass hygiene school. I mean, if you're thinking that you barely passed hygiene school, you don't have to get straight A's. You know, I got some B's. I maybe even got a C in microbiology. Like my first C ever in my whole life. But that happened. And those were areas that I then focused on studying and reviewing and all of that as I got into be an educator and needed to know more about that. But those are things that I then recognized as flaws in myself to study up. So you don't have to be a straight A student. Yeah.
This perfection in our profession is a facade. Coming from a hygiene educator who had to take the anesthesia written board twice and now teaches anesthesia. That's me.
See, you don't have to be perfect.
You don't. And the things that I learned from that has made me such a more impactful educator, especially when things aren't going well for your students and they worked so hard and they didn't do as well on an exam or a process evaluation or a board. And for them to sit in front of you and you tell them, guess what? You can still succeed because guess what? I also have failed a lot. So that really at the time I was devastated, absolutely devastated. And now looking back, I think, I think maybe I failed so I'd be a better educator.
There you go.
Extra practice.
Yeah. That's right.
Meant to be.
Mandy, how about you?
I think I just want to go back and reiterate the time is now. It's going to go by. For me, I thought to be an educator, I would have to get my bachelor's degree. I thought that was 1 year and I'll be there and I can teach in 1 year. And I found out I have to get my bachelor's and then I have to get my master's. That was a huge blow. And I cried. And my husband was like, if anybody can do it, you can. And I thought, this went from 1, maybe 2 years to now 4, maybe 5 years. And I thought that 5 years is going to go by whether I do it or not do it. So time is now, whether you rush through it or take your time, but look into it. It's going to go by whether you're ready for it or not. So time is now.
Shelley, time is now.
Yeah, I would say similar to Megan's, you definitely don't have to know everything all at once. It's more important to just show up for the students, be willing to learn with them, talk them through it, guide them. You're not going to know all the answers, and that's okay. You'll learn.
I had a hygienist that has her associates, and she found out I taught in a bachelor's completion program. She's like, oh, I would love to do that one day, but I don't want to have to write a paper ever again. And I was like, listen, you can definitely do it. You've had a ton of experience in hygiene school, and there are so many resources. So if you're stuck on a paper, you just text us.
Absolutely.
We'll help you with it. We don't mind.
I love that ending thought, Melia, is you are not doing this alone. You will not be doing this alone. You have a tribe of people here to help you along this life, professional, dreaming, all of this, to help you realize that you've got what it takes and you've got people who will help you. And those are the kind of educators that we want. So if you're thinking about education, drop us a line and we'd love to help you out. Thanks for listening in to Dental Hygiene Educators, and we hope to see you as a fellow educator in the next few years because we need you.